Western Valley Congressman and, yes, Laredo native. We won't hold that against him. Henry Cuellar joining us on the Valley's Morning News. Congressman, welcome back to the show. So this bill that's been tossed around like a hot potato up in D.C., what needs to change in your mind in order to give it a chance for passage and give us a bit more border security?
Well, first of all, Serge, I wish I would say it would be an honor to be with you, but anyway, no, I'm just kidding. Hey, Happy New Year. Hey,
Happy New Year.
Seriously, this is, I know the chairman, Michael McCall, he was down there in the Valley this weekend. He's a good man. He's trying to do the right thing, but I think I think he's trying to look at trying to pass something that would be okay with the conservatives. And what's happening up here with this particular bill, the extreme folks on the Republican side are saying, this is not enough. And then, of course, Democrats, moderates like myself are saying, hey, what are you doing adding fencing down there? He wants to add another 10 miles at the Rio Grande, another 10 miles in Del Rio and other places, adding more money for National Guard. First of all, if you put 1 mile of fencing, it will cost about $7.5 million per mile. You put 1 mile of technology, it will cost about $1 million per mile. So for the taxpayers, it makes more sense to look at that. For the National Guard, again, they provide a supplemental service, but $35 million a year. Imagine if we gave that to the local police, the local sheriff. Imagine what they could do to coordinate on security.
No, and I was about to say, just a simple block grant for border states, give Texas, for example, like some of the numbers that were thrown around up in Austin. Greg Abb and all these kids up in Austin, they're thinking about spending $300-400 million again and permanently on a yearly basis, Texas budget, to keep the DPS down here. So give that to Texas in a block grant to fund the increased DPS presence on the border that is welcomed by many law enforcement and some border leaders. And just as an example for you.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they came down here, and again, the chairman is actually a very good friend of mine, McCall, very good friend of mine. But I think there's other currents working through this, other forces working through this, and I talked to one of the guys that was there, and he had told one of my friends that was there. He said, "Hey, listen, I've been to the border, and when last time I was at the border, I had to travel in a armored car because it was so dangerous." And I said, "What? I mean, you don't travel around in an armored car, Serge, or Tim, or myself, and." I don't know where some of these folks get some of this impressions when they see the border. And like I told them, look, if you guys want so much the fencing, I'll be happy to put a fence around the city that you live in if that's what you want.
It's just a waste of money. Yeah, waste of money, feel-good measure by these guys. They have the assets, so they properly allocate them. I know that they can do a better job of securing the border. Joining us on 710 KURV, Western Valley Congressman Henry Cuellar.
Yeah, Congressman Tim Sullivan here, and sticking with the fencing issue for a moment. I mean, how feasible are these fencing proposals in this bill? Because it seems like they were put in the bill with, and I know they were down here, but it seems like they were put in there without the lawmakers knowing what they're talking about. In some of these areas, the fence simply cannot be built. And there's a natural border there anyway.
Yeah. Right. And why not, if you're talking about fencing, why not, not that I support it, but why not get local support? Why not talk to the local congressman from that area? There's three of us there, Vela, Hinojosa, Cuellar. There's three of us. Nobody talked to us about, the fencing.
Let me interject real quick. You were not part of that tour this past weekend, were you?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to the border, and I was somewhere else.
And supposedly Mike McCall's a good friend, huh? Mikey didn't bother calling you?
Yeah, he did call me several times.
Okay. Was that a bipartisan tour, Henry, or
no? No, to be honest with you, it was not. The bill came through the committee. They refused to take a single Democratic amendment, not a single one. So apparently,
so how are they going to get the real story? I mean, what does one have to do to convince? Well, I mean, McCall should know this, but other outside lawmakers that despite the tens upon tens of millions of dollars spent, the fence is not working as an enforcement measure. You'd think you'd be able to get through to them on the financial side of things that it is a waste of taxpayer money.
And plus, history tells us, we've seen some of the great fences. Look at the Berlin Wall. Look at what happened with the Germans and the French in World War One. Look at the Great Wall of China. I mean, we know that a fence is a 14th century solution. It's a feel good. They think that that's a solution. What they keep talking about is putting more National Guard. How about giving us more money for CBP officers so we can put them on our bridges so they can provide security there, but at the same time move the trade and tourism, which is so important to our local economies.
How about asking the guys on the ground on Border Patrol what they want? Perhaps a few more boats in the river to patrol up and down and prevent any illegal human and drug traffic from coming across the natural barrier that is the Rio Grande. Asking them if they want a new fence, where to put that new fence. How about asking these guys to provide all the data and input because they are on the ground every single day? I don't see that happening right now. It's just like he floated something out there, dead on arrival, just as a feel-good measure. Okay, I did something, it got defeated. Okay, I'm done. That's not going to help us secure the border.
No. And actually, I again, Michael's a very good friend of mine. I took him from Laredo. You've been to Laredo, right, Serge? I know you want to move to Laredo.
I have not. I have not renewed my U.S. I have not renewed my visa, so I'm afraid I won't be able to get back in the country if I go to Laredo. So, it's on the U.S. side. I'm sorry.
No. So I took him in one of those small plane Cessnas 110 from Laredo all the way to Brownsville, and I said, "Look at the way this river snakes around, and look at the terrain." I said, "How are you going to put a fence here all the way?" And I said, "What happened to private property rights? The people that are
that's a great point too.
Areas, what about
which were ignored when
they
built the initial fence."
Yeah, exactly. And remember what happened in Brownsville? They got so absurd that they were going to cut part of the campus at the university down there in half. So, question was, are you going to take classes in English or in Spanish? Was the joke that I used to tell the folks. I said, "What are y'all doing?" You got to have a little sense when you provide border security. I want to see border security, but to put things that are 14th century solutions to a 21st century problem, to think that National Guard, by the way, National Guard, all they do, and again, I respect them and I support them, but they don't enforce immigration law. I mean, if somebody came up to them, they can't stop them under the immigration laws. All they do is provide support services. We got to be smart on how we provide that. I'll just go back to the numbers that they gave me.
Hey,
$7.5 million for a 1 mile fence, $1 million.
I understand. It's just ridiculous. Hey, before I let you go, listen. Mike McCall used to give us a lot of airtime at one point, and now he went big. He went to Fox News, and he doesn't call the little people anymore. But ask your buddy Mike if he wants to have a real conversation on border security. To be brave enough, have the Nuggets to come back on the morning news, talk with me and Tim, and let's talk about the 7 or 8. Seriously, tell Mike McCall to come back on the morning news on the Saturday morning show. Let's talk about it as reasonable people, if he truly wants to secure the border.
Hard when one side is not reasonable.
Plus, Henry, before I let you go, Super Bowl pick. What you got for the weekend?
Dallas Cowboys.
He is totally.
Don't we wish, though.
Thank you, Henry. That's Henry Cuellar, Western Valley Congressman, joining us on 710 KURV.